What's the deal? This your boy, Mr. Athletic over everything, and I wanted to get a little more in depth into the whole bench legend mindset concept. I basically started using this back in 2016. I had just come off the heels of having a tumultuous turn or time in a federation here in Texas. After all the drama that happened, I was pretty much forced out of the federation. Now, mind you, I'm a lifetime natural lifter. I've never taken any steroids, no testosterone, no nothing. But I chose to lift in the non-tested federation due to the fact that I thought that's what everybody did. And then when I started realizing that that probably wasn't the best place for me, was basically 2016. Now, when this happened, there was a lot of controversy over it. I had totaled 2,000 pounds without a coach, without a team, without drugs, and all that good stuff. I squatted 700, I benched 545, and I pulled 760 for 2,000 total. Now, that brings me to something I'm gonna talk about a little bit later in the video. So my biggest bench press in the U.S. in the other federation was basically 545 pounds. Now, as we all know, I went on to break the IPF open world record in a full meet with a 619 pound bench press. I believe I weighed about 316 or something like that when I did it. But I was a smaller lifter, so to speak. But during this time, when I left, I worked with a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest power lifters of all time, Steve Goggins. Now, many of you guys will not probably be familiar with Steve Goggins if you're not a historian of the sport, but Steve Goggins is the first man to ever squat 1,100 pounds. Now, I became drawn to Steve Goggins back in 2014 when I first started due to the fact that there was a lot of talk about Ed Coan. And Ed Coan is the man, everyone calls him the GOAT. But it was something about the sport that kind of made me wonder, were there any people who look like me who are any good? Which led me to start Googling black powerlifters. And Steve Goggins' videos started popping up. And I was like, wow. So I reached out to him and explained to him, like, look, I just started powerlifting like a month ago. I pulled 700, I benched 500 in my first competition. And his words were like, hey, man, keep up with it, man. If you're a natural lifter, just make sure you got good programming, blah, 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 whatever. So fast forward, the controversy happens with the other federation. Shit hits the fan. Everyone's reaching out, trying to figure out what's going on. Well, Steve Goggins reaches out and was like, listen, you're not going to probably be able to lift where you're at now. You might want to, if you're natural, go ahead and lift in the USAPL. And that actually created my career for the most part, because if that didn't happen, no telling where I would be now. But I went ahead and did that. But it was something that transpired during that time of him working with me, was the fact I found out that my programming and training was absolute trash. I was benching almost every other day, or every day in some cases. If I had a good day, I benched. If I had a bad day, I benched. But the one thing about Steve is that it was very structured, and to the point to where it was to the pound. And I remember one day where on deadlift one time, he gave me 696 for 5. It was 696 for 5. And I rounded up and did 705 for 5. And he was like, yo, that's not the number I gave you. And I was like, yeah, but I ain't gonna do 696 pounds, I'm gonna round up. And he was like, that's not what I told you. Do what I put on the paper. And I could tell that he was dead ass serious about it, but it also made me start realizing, like, why is he so concerned with those little bitty pounds? And I'm gonna get to that a little bit later into this video. But that became important because it started, now I didn't listen. I would bench off program often, and to the point where it actually messed me up later on down the line. But at the time, I didn't quite understand what was the reasoning or the rationale behind me not lifting to the exact pound and things of that nature. But now as a coach, I totally understand what he was going through, and I have a different understanding because I'm removed from it, But I was getting ready for Raw Nationals 2016. The most I have ever bench pressed at that time was 545 pounds in competition. I believe I did 565 in the gym with gym weights or whatever. But once I started working with him, he had me benching only 2 times a week. I was benching on Mondays and I was benching on Thursdays. Now, to this day, I still bench on those days. And also I have my clients bench on those days. Those are the 2 best days for bench to me. Gives you just enough time to have that heavy All-American bench day on Monday and then come back and hit it again on Thursday and then be rested again back on Monday again with a heavy day and a light day. So I took those things and those are incorporated into my 6-wave theory that I came up with based on my experiences with bench press with different people and different things that I found out over the years. But what happened is that my bench was just climbing. He was giving me these doubles and these triples, and I'm hitting them. I'm like, man, I need to see where I'm at. I know I can bench press 585. I know I can. And if you guys aren't familiar with the 584.2 with kilo plates, is basically 4 reds and a blue. And that's a very, very iconic, it's an iconic setup to see on the bar, especially when you're coming from that bench press, because that's not numbers that people that's rare air for people who are benching, let alone a master lifter or a drug-free lifter. So I remember I was approaching that. I knew that I was close to that 585, but that number was not going to come up in the training leading into Raw Nationals. So I believe he gave me 555, but it was wrong. It was supposed to be 550, and I did it, and I knew it was wrong. It was a typo. And he was like, hey, that was probably the wrong thing, but good job, whatever. So at this point, I'm like, next session, I'm benching 585. But, that's not what he gave me. And when he didn't give it to me, I took it anyway. And he saw the video, and he said, hey, man, why did you bench that? I knew you could bench 585. And I was like, man, I just had, I had to do it. And he goes, you know what? You got it. I was like, what you mean? He's like, you got it. You can take care of yourself from here on out. So it was about a month out from Raw Nationals. So he basically was like, I'm not going to listen. I could do better with my time. And when that happened, instead of me saying, you know what, let me stick to the plan, I bench pressed every day leading to Raw Nationals damn near. And I get to Raw Nationals, and of course I didn't bench press to 585. I only bench pressed 573. But at that point, it made me realize that doing things my way was probably not the best way. So at that point, that's when I started adopting lifting only on those 2 days, sticking to the program, coming up with a plan, following the plan through. And then also, I remember hearing a story about Kirill, the former all-time record holder, saying that he and his coach had came up with a plan 10 years ago to break the world record when he did. And that means you stuck to the plan. There was no cheating. That was just strictly execution. That's bench legend mentality. And that's what I'm talking about with the whole concept behind the bench legend mentality. Wearing the clothes, wearing the shirts, wearing wrist wraps, keeping reminders to make sure you have your equipment, make sure you took your meals, make sure you took your supplements, make sure you had your pre-workout, make sure you had a good night's sleep. Those are things that make you a bench legend, or not even a bench legend, you taking energy from those people who are at that caliber of lifter. So I came up with the merch or whatever more or less as a reminder. What would a bench legend do in this situation? If you hit you're scheduled to hit 500 pounds and you hit the 500 pounds, don't load the bar up again and try to do 515. You wait until that number comes up in your training. It'll make sense later on down the line. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit when I close this video. But that led on for me going from that 573 at Raw Nationals 2016 to a couple of months later, me hitting started hitting a 600 pound bench more often. I hit it regularly. I hit 600 pounds 50 times in less than a year at 290, 300 pounds. But during this process, I started realizing the power in saving, like making sure that your multiples are right. If your multiples are right, your single lifts will be right. And you do that through your training and through your programming. You make sure that you start your pause reps at a certain time, your competition style reps, legs up, legs down, legs crossed, whatever it is that you do to manipulate your bench numbers and leverages and things of that nature. But I said all this to say that when it came time for me to go to the IPF Worlds in Calgary, I was destined to break that all-time world record. I had missed it the previous year in Belarus. Foot slipped from underneath me, and I missed the world record. Came very close, but missed it. But in 2018, I had a perfect prep. And I'm actually going to release a video later this week breaking down each one of those sessions, probably the last 10 sessions, I believe, me leading into IPF Worlds, where everything was perfect except the last week. And the last week almost cost me my opportunity at breaking the IPF World Record. Luckily, I was able to withstand my own stupidity, and also having a coach that believed in me and made me take the shot at the IPF World Record. But I kind of brought this up to think I want to congratulate Julius Maddox on breaking the all-time world record that he broke a few months ago. But this time he did it in outstanding fashion. It moved damn near like a single. I mean, damn near like a opener. 744 pounds. Now, I say that to say that he did something a couple of weeks ago where he did it was either 700 or 705, and he did it for a triple. Now, a regular gym bro or a person who's less experienced would have said, damn, I wonder what I could do. And he would have loaded that bar up with 760, 770 or some shit to see if he could do it. But he didn't do that. He said, you know what? I know my bench is good, so I'm going to save it for the competition. And I think that was the perfect segue into the bench legend mentality. He was thinking like, hey, I know I could do 730, 740. I know I could do that. But why not just save it for the competition? And that's where most novices don't get the point. They'll keep banging their heads away at these lifts that if they just kept doing the work, it would be there at the end. Actually, one of my little guys that, I mess with, hard body, he's a really good lifter. But I was trying to tell him that if you're trying to lift 500 pounds in competition, you shouldn't be trying to bench it now. You should be doing the work to make sure that the 500 in competition is there. But I think he'll get that later on down the line. But these are things that people make mistakes of. And the merchandise that I came up with are all things that will help you keep those things in mind. But this is J Mike, Mr. Athletic Over Everything. And I just wanted to drop this little video. And also, one quick thing. A lot of people have been mentioning like, yo, you're getting small. Is everything okay? You'll get big one day. You'll get back big again. Look, that time was over. If I'm never 300 pounds again, I will be happy. Now it's time to back up a little bit, recalculate the bench legend mentality to suit a 120 kg lifter, so I can go ahead and be a bench legend once again there. But thank you once again, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Later.